How's everybody doing today? It's great to see all of you this evening. It's good to have a chance to catch up with you again tonight. And I really hope you've had a good day today. It's good to have a chance to talk, and I'm super happy to be with you again. May God bless our time together, that we can experience joy and peace in all things today. Many blessings to all of you, and so glad to see you. I'm hoping you can see each other's comments now across the varying platforms that we're on. We're on 2 Facebook pages, on YouTube, and also now on the website. So I'm hoping you can see each other this evening as a little more conversation can happen with all of these things. It's been a great week here. We've had the opportunity to have my daughter Lauren at home. And most of you will know that Lauren is a tap dancer. And so there have been lots and lots of conversations, lots of songs played, ideas for things she's working on going forward. And needless to say, I've been thinking a lot about rhythm and about timing. And this comes up in all that we do, because we're all experiencing this strange season where our rhythms are disrupted. Our time and our energy and how we do things is all different right now. And for some people, it is very different. It is very painfully different, very hard to imagine the loss that some people have experienced. Rhythm is a part of our lives in every way. Everything from how our hearts beat and our lungs breathe, how we sleep and wake, how we live day to day, to how we've structured our systems, our churches, and our government. And right now, it just seems like so many things are dismantled in a way. I keep having this image. I've used this many times in meetings and with groups, and you've probably heard me say it if you've spent time with me at all, but I keep having this image of like Tinker Toys, or like, I don't know, Connects toys. When I played with Tinker Toys, my kids played with Connects toys, how you put the pieces and you construct these things. And in some ways, I think our lives are sort of like that. They're constructions of ideas or things. And right now, it seems like many of those normal constructions are sitting on the carpet in front of us. We're looking at the pieces of things and wondering if they're going to come back to something that we recognize in some way afterwards. I know many of you have experienced these things. Some of you have shared them with me. It's so good to see all of you connecting here. Good to see you again, Cindy and Gail and Becky and Mary. You had surgery today, so thank you for being with us this evening. Great that you're home and doing better. I hope you can see each other's comments as we continue. So these pieces of our structure on the floor are kind of in front of us, and we're wondering what will be constructed next. And you can believe that as a pastor, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel the pieces on the floor. We all do in some way. And there's some really serious sadness over the pieces apart. The rhythm undone, in a way, if you will. I've seen plenty of comments about people who have talked about just canceling this year and starting over in January. Well, you know, that's not really possible. And I can see that. I can understand that. But there's also a little bit of excitement, because I guess I tend to be the creative type. I'm not the only one. About looking at all these pieces and saying, you know, the pieces are still here. How will they be remade? How will we rebuild? I guess I just can't let that kind of thing go. I'm a firm believer in resurrection. And I guess that's why I just have this Jesus thing. Resurrection is everything: renewal, new life, recovery, new hope. Resurrection is everything. So I believe resurrection is coming. We don't have to give up on 2020 to get there. We don't have to at all. So again, it's good to see all of you here tonight across all of the platforms that we're able to be a part of this evening. I saw this beautiful poem, And I guess it's just a writing online, and it went viral, and I researched the writer. Her name is Leslie Dwight, and I found out she's just an ordinary nice person. And this post of hers went so viral that it was shared on the news. But I do share this with caution. And I share it with caution because for some of the people who may be experiencing the deepest pain during this time, I mean the deepest pains right now, these words just might seem way too simplistic, much too little, and way too late. And minimize the loss that people have experienced during this time and make it seem like rebuilding or recovery is easy. For some people have lost their businesses, their livelihoods, and just people have lost lives and loved ones from this virus. People have lost homes. But this writing is still important, and it's gone around quite a bit because change starts somewhere, and it needs to start with us individually, each person. Systems can change, but it's our hearts that have to change. So look at this for a minute with me. Leslie Dwight's writing. You've probably seen it. If you have, that's all right. Chime in. It says, what if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awaking us from our ignorant slumber. I felt that. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all. Have you seen this writing? Have you seen it? If you haven't, it's on my Facebook page, and you're welcome to friend me. I'd love to get to know you that way too. So you're welcome to be a part of my life in that way. Maybe 2020 isn't canceled. Maybe right now everything, our rhythms, our patterns, our systems, all seem to be laying in tinker toys on the floor. But maybe this is okay in some ways. I see your comment, Gail. Yeah, a lot of people shared this around. It did go absolutely viral. It did. Maybe it's okay for 2020 to be a year of change. Maybe, I don't want to be tried again. Maybe in some ways we needed this disruption to our rhythms and our patterns so we could learn new ways to develop patterns that are more aligned with each other. We've been talking about harmony, more aligned with each other. I love this. You can see each other now. That's wonderful, because I've been seeing all your comments. Now you can see more of each other. That's great. Jesus is the source of all healing. Jesus will be the rebuilder in all recovery efforts and in every resurrection. And it isn't a resurrection of obligation or forced or I'm trying to think of the right word. It isn't a resurrection of systems that are driven by anger or by fear or by anxiety or control. We need to pray for a resurrection of systems and rhythms in our own life that are more driven by love than they ever have been before. I don't know about you, but I want the patterns of my life that emerge after this time and even through this time to be more driven by love, by hope, and by resurrection power than I've ever been driven by before. I hope that is true for you. Resurrection power. Jesus knows how to do this. Jesus talks about this all through his messages. This morning we talked about this beautiful story in Matthew 11 where Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees, and he's frustrated with them and how they keep like holding him to task to rules that don't really matter. They keep pushing him on things they're supposed to adhere to because that's the way the religious laws were. This is why I say sometimes that I'm not particularly religious, because I don't just do things in following Jesus just because I'm supposed to necessarily. It's about driven by love for God. There's this passage in Matthew 11 where Jesus is speaking to the people tenderly after he calls the Pharisees and the religious leaders of that day know-it-alls. Pretty rough on them. He says to them, "Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion?" And, I would say to you today, are you tired? Are you burned out? And are you worn out with the patterns that were not productive in the past? The rhythms of your life, the systems that don't work. Are you worn out with the past? Are you worn out with the things that we do just because we're supposed to do them? Are you worn out? Are you tired? And Jesus says, "Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest." And he says, "Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace." I love this image. I love this image of rhythms of grace. What do they sound like? What do they sound like? Are they joyful? Yes, they have to be. Grace is always joy. Resurrection is always joy. What are the rhythms of grace to you? To me, they're embracing change. Yeah, I see you, Shar. Embracing being out of our comfort zone. That's what resurrection is, isn't it? They're daily challenges, rhythms of grace, challenges to see people with new eyes, with new perceptions. Rhythms of grace call us to listen, call us to learn, call us to receive what people say and give them a chance to help us understand more. Rhythms of grace. What does that mean to you? What do rhythms of grace sound like to you? This morning we talked about other rhythms that may have been in our past, like rhythms of anxiety or fear or even trauma, even difficulty. I see your comment, Michael. Why not shake things up a bit? Take a leap of faith and truly find God within yourself. Yes! Rhythms of grace. The drumbeat you find in your own spirit and your heart. Embracing being out of our comfort zone. What does a rhythm of grace sound like in your life? What does it sound like to you? Rhythms of grace to me sound like hopefulness. They sound like persistent hope. Hope that might get discouraged here and there, but doesn't give up. Hope in resurrection all the time. That's what rhythms of grace. That's the rhythm of grace I need in my life because I get discouraged. Rhythms of grace in my life sound like joy. They sound like working together on things, even if we can't agree on every detail. Rhythms of grace allow us to not always agree on every detail and still work together in love. What do rhythms of grace sound like in your life? I'd love for you to share more. If you have thoughts about what rhythms of grace God is calling to you. I hear you. It sounds like moving forward. Unforced rhythms of grace. It must come from love for all. Unconditional, yeah. Rhythms of grace are for all people. Love of all people. Beautiful. Rhythms of grace. I keep thinking of that when I wake in the morning. Can my heart beat to your grace, O Lord? To the unforced rhythm of your grace. Can my breath move to the rhythm of your grace? I discovered something today. Don't be afraid to keep commenting. Keep commenting. I discovered something today, even when I was working, and I've known it before. I have this weird, they call it like computer apnea. It sounds funny, but I actually hold my breath while I'm working. I forget to breathe. Isn't that strange? I'm working from home and I forget to breathe. No wonder I'm so tired. Can my breath be as sure as God's breath? Can the rhythm of my breathing be in line with God's grace? I see you, Ron. 2020 has given us a new vision, and that is what we haven't seen before. Yeah, this is really, really true. Acceptance of the imperfections of others. That's a rhythm of grace for sure. Maybe rhythms of grace allow for more graceful conversations, time to forgive, assuming positive intent, learning that all people come from different rhythms. And a lot of people may not have understood rhythms of grace before. And we don't always operate in rhythms of grace in our own ways. Rhythms of grace allow for imperfections, acceptance of our own perfection, rhythms of grace. That's beautiful. Rhythms of grace. Oh God, can you bring rhythms of grace to our days, our nights, our bodies, our breathing, our systems? What would that look like? Our church. So God, when you revive us, we're built on your patterns. It's interesting. Mary's saying here that she was told many times today to breathe. It helps relax me and makes things easier. You, Mary, bless you for being with us tonight. Hi, Jay. And Roxy, respect for others' opinions and ideas when we disagree. Yes, rhythms of grace. And I would say understanding with compassion, understanding the need to just share with each other and be with each other, empathetic compassion for other people. I've just been considering the massive amount of loss that people are feeling over not being able to meet in the church. That is so huge for people who have spent lifetimes with people and their friends and in these places, these weekly gatherings. And for this to not happen right now is a huge, huge loss. There's massive grief. And it may be quite a while before we can do things like we did before again. There's a lot to consider with that. I just have been feeling. So in a way, God has opened a new rhythm of grace for compassion for people who are experiencing so much grief that I may not have had quite as much compassion before on this. I see you listening and hearing, willing to learn, willing to watch. I love that you can see each other's comments more now. It helps us develop a community. And you know what? I think this is a great example of a rhythm of grace because you're coming from all over the place tonight to share. And again, not everybody's commenting. I hope you'll have the courage to comment at some point yourself when you want to share, but just being present, you're joining in with the Holy Spirit in this time that we have to learn from each other and to grow. This is a rhythm of God's grace to me. Remember, Jesus says, walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And it's not walk from a distance. Another translation talks about it as take my yoke upon you and learn from me. So actually, learn how to walk the way Jesus walks with Jesus. I think this is what it means to ask Jesus to be the master of our lives, to train us as apprentices, to teach us even how to walk, the rhythm of our walk, and even how to breathe. I see your comment, Nancy. Yeah, I see that too. People worried. Yeah, people worried if we'll ever make it back to the building. It's hard to think about. It's hard to process, isn't it? Jesus talks about how his leadership is gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul in the rhythm of God's grace in your life. Because the rhythm of God's grace is easy and the burden is light. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to hold still, though. It's a lot of work. I'm sure you know that. There's another scripture I want to bring to you tonight that has been just crawling all over me. It's from Proverbs 3. And it's the same concept here. It's going a little further with the rhythm of grace and trusting in God to do every little thing. The steps we take, the breath we breathe, the words we say, the way we interact with other people, particularly online, you guys. This is a season that it's so easy to start hurting people. It's so easy to just add to the noise. It's so easy. And it's so hard to know when you need to stand up and say something and, enter a conflict and when you need to. You understand what I'm saying? But look at this passage. It's been all over me. From Proverbs 3. It says, listen for God's voice in everything you do. Everywhere you go, your body will glow with health. Your very bones will vibrate with life. The passage around it says, trust God from the bottom of your heart. This is where I keep thinking about rhythms because I keep thinking about our heartbeats. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. God's the one who will keep you on track. Don't assume that you know it all. Run to God and run from evil. Your body will glow with health. Your very bones will vibrate with life. See, this is resurrection. This is resurrection. This is that Jesus-given resurrection that means everything. So I'm going to be praying for you that in these coming days, you will live into God's grace in your life. You will sense the rhythm of God's unfailing, unforced grace. You will respond to the invitation to learn more about it. And you will turn to Jesus in all things. It's a life rich as we learn and grow together in great joy. May you have a beautiful and blessed night. It's great to see you here. Great to see you here, Pam Yenner. Good to see you. May you have a beautiful and blessed night tonight. Many blessings to all of you, praying for your every day and your every movement in all things. And may it be so. Amen.